I'm trying to do this video in a way where it's not performative, but the knowledge or just camera's right there, so bear with me. I've been reading a book called Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. And I haven't finished it. It's a girthy book. But I wanted to kind of share some passages within the book that really felt relevant to the time and space a lot of people feel like they're in right now. There's a lot of commentary and content surrounding the topic of loneliness or the loneliness epidemic, just content about how people don't like their jobs or quitting their jobs and things of that nature. And I think this is coming about because there has been such a long stretch of time where Americans, and this video, I will be speaking about my experience as a poor American, and of course, me being Black also comes into play. I think now more than ever, it's really hard to find happiness because, one, with social media platforms that are very feed driven, like, scrolling, no break. I do it a lot. I managed to do it on YouTube and I don't even know. But our brains don't really get a break. We don't really get a chance to just sit with our thoughts, sit with our emotions in a healthy way. And I mostly want to speak for myself. So I noticed that I use content to kind of distract myself from my life. So it's very much escapism, which escapism really hinders your ability to be present. And in this book, being present is a very important part of reaching the flow state, or the what the author calls an optimal experience, without being able to be completely present or just attentive to the things you like, to learn the things you like, to learn self. It's very hard to reach a feeling of happiness. And at this point, social media has become addictive for me, especially YouTube. I really love consuming information, even if it's like, sometimes it's nonsensical, sometimes it's like very informative and knowledge-based in a way where it's like academic in nature. But sometimes, either way, I'm not ingesting all of this content, all of this, like, I watch philosophical, I always struggle with the word. I watch a lot of philosophy-based videos, and also videos about psychology and cognitive neuroscience and things like that. And it's all in hopes that maybe they'll give me an answer to why I don't enjoy my life. And I have a problem with intellectualizing my emotions a lot of the time. But really, I really think that the only way to experience happiness is to be able to be fully immersed in experience. And right now, there's just so many distractions. There's like so many distractions. Um, if you are a working class American, you know that work is labor intensive, I think the word is, and it's consuming even outside of your job. Your body, your mind is depleted, especially if you have any type of mental health issues or any type of if you're neurodivergent in any type of way. Once you leave work, your mind is still in a way in work mode, and I don't see how that would lend itself to create a space where you would be able to sit and fully immerse yourself in any type of activity that could perhaps be something that you find happiness in. So when I'm watching this content, this like self-help content, or like anything to do with bettering yourself, or like even just watching something about how to mix music better, how to let's just give a random example, how to play the keyboard. I can't just be content with playing the keyboard. I'm thinking about how I could get better at the keyboard so that I could make content showcasing my keyboard skills in order to make money. Or maybe I could video myself learning to play the keyboard so that I get some followers, and those followers would translate into monetary gain. Just an example. Or maybe I could end up in a band and we could make some money. Like, it's never just I want to learn the keyboard because I just want to learn how to play the keyboard. Anything I want to do, I kind of feel anything I want to do just for the sake of doing, I feel like is a waste of time, and I don't think that's something that we should feel. Um, Cultivation of of enjoyment for enjoyment's sake, it shouldn't be something that fills you with guilt. But there's this narrative out there that your time should be spent making some type of money. And I think this guilt is much more heightened in people um, whose basic needs aren't being met with the salary or wage that they're currently being paid. I think if you aren't able to pay your bills, you're expected to be hustling and grinding to find your way out of that, even though it's pretty hard to hustle and grind your way out of poverty. And I don't know, I just really don't feel like I've had the time to focus on the things that matter. I'm considerably still burnt out from a job and just life in general. Being impoverished and in constant survival mode will leave you not in the best of moods and not in a space to build new skills or explore yourself or figure out yourself, which in this book, self-concept is a very important part of reaching the flow state or optimal experience. If you're a self-conscious person, it makes it hard to let go, which letting go is a really, it has been a theme in my life as of recently. Um, as someone who practices mindful based, who does mindfulness practices, it's very important to let go. But because I'm so self-conscious and anxious and self-centered in a way, which it sounds negative, but it is, I don't know, it can be whatever, but it's the truth. It takes a level of self-centeredness to be perpetually anxious, because you're constantly worried about how you're being perceived, which when you're actually out and experiencing the world in a more outwardly way, I would say, it allows, it puts the self or your idea of self kind of on the back burner. But yeah, this is something I'm working through therapy. I don't think that the way the workforce is set up for people that are not wealthy will make finding happiness an easy feat. But I do believe that it's possible. But for us, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot more compassion, which I'm still working on, self-compassion, and just in general, like every kind of compassion. I just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think that there is a level of like complacency. I don't think people are necessarily compliant with the way things are going. Um, Compliant would infer some type of respect for the rules and a type of knowing that these rules are good for you. I just think people are complacent. They've, and I'm speaking for myself too, they've become invested in more of these hedonistic pleasures. I think we're caught up in these temporary pleasures, such as like social media, things that give you this instant feeling of what it feels like happiness. But I wouldn't insult anybody's intelligence by acting as if I think people think this pleasure type feeling we get from scrolling is actual happiness. I don't think anyone thinks that when they're scrolling through TikTok, boy, oh boy, I'm so happy. I don't think people think like that. At least I don't. Or when I'm scrolling, watching millions of videos on YouTube so much that it's like content overload and I'm not retaining anything. But it feels good to be watching something that is knowledge based or whatever. It feels good, but is it happiness? I don't believe so. Um, I do think, just like this book states, a lot of these pleasures are just symbols of happiness. And it's going to take a lot of like breaking of cycles to just be able to be present. And I almost feel like I just want to unplug from society somewhat, but I know that's not plausible. But I do think that I will go on some type of social media break. I don't know when. I know that I need to do this. That's the crazy thing. I know that I need to sit and really be more present with family, with myself. I feel like I'm inside of my head way too much. So I don't should present with myself, not the best, not really. I don't know why I said that. I'm present with myself a lot. I'm alone a lot. I think a lot. I'm very self-indulgent, very like I said, centered in a way. And I don't think it's something that's going to change by me watching a bunch of videos about how to do this and how to be this and how to be that and how to be that. I enjoy anybody that's watching this video. I'm not making this video to provide answers. I'm just getting my thoughts out about this book. But I really do think as long as I'm tied, I don't even want to say as long as I'm tied up in poverty, but as long as I'm trying to rebel against the constraints of that poverty brings me, as long as I'm focused on the constraints, I'm not going to find my happiness. And there's a fine line between, like, what's the word? Repressing. Like, I don't want to repress my emotions because they tend to come back 10 times stronger. Like every psychiatrist or psychologist probably would say. I'm pretty sure I heard that from my therapist. But when you repress, it just comes back worse. So I don't want to repress anything. But I don't want these feelings of oppression to consume me in a self-destructive way. I was watching this movie called Waking Life, and there was a man, I think his name was Self-Destructive Man. It's a movie about like lucid, like dreaming and reality and things like that. I gotta watch it again. I don't think I fully grasped it. But there was a man and he's going off about all the ills of the world, and he's just going and he's just going and it's just going. And he sits down and he lights himself on fire, which in the news we've seen people who have self-immolated, I think the term is, who've in the name of like some type of political message, which I'm not here to give my opinion on whether or not self-immolation is an effective protesting demonstration of like protest. I don't think that's important to this video per se, but I think in the movie it was representative of a representation of how someone can get wrapped up in the ills of the world, where they're just yelling and they're just raging and it becomes self-destructive in a way. I'm by no means saying that we should not be conscious and mad or loud about the injustices in the world, especially with what's going on in Gaza. Of course, I have no authority over anyone's emotions. So nothing that I'm saying is like, you need to do this or you need to do that. So, but I am saying that I noticed that when I got into these modes of like, look at all, when I get into God, it's not past tense. I do it still. I get into these mode, like, oh my God, everything's fucked up. Which seems like that, but it doesn't change much, at least in the way that I do it. And it's not the way I want to help the world. Someone asked me in the comments, have I found meaning, something like that. And I want my purpose to come to me. In the book, I'm going to go to a passage that I didn't write down. Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue. as the unattended side effect of one's personal dedication to a course greater than oneself. It's okay to sit and be like, oh my God, like self and oh, da, 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 da. But like, I think community, seeing how you could be of service to your community is really where you get to find your purpose. I think America really does a disservice to just how important community is, or being a part of your community is. We are very individualistic, yes, country. We really have put a focus on individualism in a way that has harmed us. Our economic system doesn't really allow for individualism to work. Prices are too high to live alone. That's why some people are getting into relationships that aren't the best and staying in them so that they don't have to get an apartment on their own because they won't be able to afford it. And you have people that are trad wives. You know, some of people probably really enjoy baking bread from scratch. But then there's other people who are like, damn, I might have to make a nigga some PB&J from scratch to have a place to live and not have to be working 2 jobs just to be able to afford a 1-bedroom home. I personally don't want to feel forced into reliance on other people per se, but I think really taking the time to build community is really what I want to focus on. I've been alone for so long and I haven't had any real friends. And I think that outside of friendships, because that's self-serving in a way, I just want to do something that's meaningful for other people. I want to curate a space for people to be authentically themselves. I really think I'm just in my own way, to be honest. I think that I think too deeply about certain things because I've been used to just being in my head all the time and like, oh my God, let's just think about everything. Let's overthink it. And just hell bent on my appearance, how I come off, which you can't, I can't control that. I don't know. Can you control that? Anybody know how you can control your perception? Like, can anyone tell me? Like, the only way to control your perception is to be completely alone. And that's why being alone is a little bit more easier. There's no one to perceive. There's no one to judge. But it also doesn't make the most kind people, I don't think. It can make you a very uncompassionate person to constantly be in a space where you're only prioritizing your comfort, which your comfort is important, but I think there's room for providing comfort for others, but not in a way where it's a detriment to your own comfort. I don't know. I just need to be amongst the people, you know? And I was in the book thing I'm talking about. Without interest in the world, a desire to be actively related to it, a person becomes isolated into himself. Bertrand Russell, one of the greatest philosophers of our century, described how he achieved personal happiness. Gradually, I learned to be indifferent to myself and my deficiencies. I came to center my attention increasingly upon external objects, the state of the world, various branches of knowledge, individuals for whom I felt affection. There could be no better short description of how to build for oneself an autotelic personality.